When you hear runners talk about different types of runs, tempo runs are right up there with the most popular that runners like to do. But what are they? What purpose do they serve? And how do I incorporate them into my training? Well, today we're going to be diving in and talking a little bit more about the tempo run as to how I've used them in the past, how I intend on using them in the future, and revisiting a little bit of nostalgia today. What is up, guys? Andy Forrestine Runner here. Welcome back to another video, and today we're talking all things tempo runs. As part of my return to running post-London Marathon, one of the boxes I needed to tick for myself was to do an old tempo loop I used to do every single week during my first couple of years of running. And it's something I've neglected over the last few years, something I used to try and do annually thereafter those first couple of years, but something that I haven't done for a good couple of years. So today I wanted to revisit that, share with you from a first-person perspective that footage, how it went, how I felt, and how I intend then on using these tempo runs moving forward, and really what the purpose is for them for me in my training. So sit back, relax and enjoy today. I'm taking you guys on a journey, and we'll come back here and talk a little bit more. So if you're excited for today's video, guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and we'll dive straight into the run. So here we go, taking on Old Faithful. This is a run I used to do every week in the first 2 years of my running journey, and I'm so excited to bring it back today and go and give it a good bash. I remember back in the days running 34 minutes, then 33, then 32, and breaking every barrier, and then just once I broke 30 minutes, and I remember thinking, I've made it. So although this video has a bigger purpose and picture today, for me right now this is nostalgia through the roof. And the second thing that I wanted to do during this downtime, go and see how fast I can run this old loop. Now this will be the first hard effort since COVID, so I'm not particularly expecting anything great, but I am absolutely buzzing. Hopefully, if this thing works, I'll be taking you on a first person view. Yes. Nostalgia through the roof. That was so hard. I forgot how much I used to burn myself out doing that loop, but well under 30 minutes, and considering I feel as unfit as I do, I'm really happy with that. So I'd love to call that a tempo effort. I haven't checked the data, but the reality is I can feel I must have tipped the threshold then. We'll go and check the heart rate and everything in a second, but overall, first effort after COVID, feeling it, but that was great fun. So that put a smile on my face. That was nostalgia at its finest. So just a quick bit of background, as I said, that's the run I used to do every single week that I would try and PB on. I used to be gutted when I couldn't PB and over the moon when I could, and it just used to take me so long to chip away at those minutes. And so officially today, well, according to the watch, 28:21 was the time. My last time I did it was 29:38. That was the first time I ever broke 30 minutes. So to take another massive chunk off today is really exciting, especially just post-COVID, first effort back. I mean, it felt hard, but I ticked every single box that I wanted to today. This loop makes my lungs burn, it induces the lactate, and it gets me really questioning life towards the end. And it did all of those things, but it was just, I had a smile on my face all the way around. So really happy to tick that box. I want to talk a little bit more about how I'm going to be integrating this sort of work moving forwards. So on the sliding scale of where tempo runs fit into my training, today was slightly harder than a normal tempo run I do. So let's just imagine, well, my threshold is around 172 to 174 beats a minute. That's roughly where my threshold is. I can feel the breathing change around that point, and that's when I know I'm on borrowed time when I go over there. Tempo runs for me usually fall around the 162 to 167 mark. They fall just below my threshold. It's what a lot of people say is comfortably uncomfortable. So you're running in an uncomfortable state, but you know you can sustain it. It's not like pain that you think, oh, I can't handle this. It's something that you go, oh, this doesn't feel good. But do you know what? I think if I stay controlled, I should be able to sustain this for a long period of time. And that's kind of that area that my normal tempo runs fall into. My data's out there on Strava. You can go and see. I tipped my threshold today. I went over it. That's because there's hills, and that's because I wanted a good lung burning effort. The whole idea of this nostalgic loop for me and that box to tick was that loop used to induce a lot of lactate. It used to burn the lungs, and mentally around 2.5 miles, I used to be toast, and I used to just try and hold on for the last 2 miles. And again, mentally, that was such a massive boost when I finished that loop, going into local races, shorter races, whatever it was, where there were hills. I knew that if I could just push up this hill, things would get easier. And you see workouts like that all the time where you hear people say you're going to work the hills and then you're going to come down over the other side and you've got to keep pushing over the other side. It teaches your body to keep working as we go. And I think for me, that's the whole concept of this loop. That's why I wanted to go out there. So I don't class this as a true tempo run, but it was quite a good tempo effort for a majority of the run. There were just points where I really did push it. So in terms of how I would scale it for me, that's where it sits normally. Other people label tempo as threshold, so it means the same thing for them. Other people hold it in more regards to down closer to marathon pace, or slightly quicker. Everybody's different. Each coach seems to have a different meaning to it, and it falls into a different area of training for everybody. So that's where it sits for me, just in that area below threshold. And how have I used this in the past, and how am I going to use it moving into this next training block? Well, normally I do tempo work chopped up into blocks, but I haven't done a lot of it, to be honest with you. I normally do threshold intervals, and then I do some controlled longer intervals when I'm doing speed work, which might fall into my threshold zone. They might fall tempo zone. They might fall slightly below. It just depends. Tempo area isn't somewhere I spend a huge amount of my time, and I do feel like there's an area that I'm missing out on, so that's something I'm going to be changing moving into this block. Now, I haven't quite decided whether it's going to be chucked into the long run, so I do sort of 5-minute chunks of tempo work in the long run, or if it's something I'm going to be doing in midweek, or if it's something I'm going to be mixing up a lot of. But what today reminded me was actually putting in prolonged tempo efforts, 20-minute tempo runs, 40-minute, 60-minute, just adjusting the effort there for those distances. Just the benefit that you get from a long period of time, mentally more than physical for me, is phenomenal. Just knowing that you can go out there and feel uncomfortable in training just gives you such a big boost leading into racing itself. So that's going to be my goal for this next training block. And when I've got a plan schedule written up and the goal race confirmed, I've got a couple I'm trying to work out which one is going to be the one to focus on. Once I've got that done, I'll share that with you, and then you'll be able to see how I'm using the tempo efforts in this training block over winter. So that's for me what a tempo run is. That's why I love it, and that's kind of how I'm going to be doing it moving forward into this block. I hope you enjoyed the footage from today's run, the first person view, just something slightly different. I did it a while ago. It just kind of takes you on the journey with me a little bit more. You can see the hills, you can see the trails in a little bit more detail as I'm going. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, guys, please give this video a like, share it with your friends, and of course subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. I appreciate you guys tuning in for this one, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Until then.